Welcome back to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. On today's show, we're pleased to be joined by O'Blaney Rinker Associates, Jamie Eck. Jamie has been in the lighting industry for more than 30 years, and with that, brings experience to the customer that has an understanding of all parts of the design, sales, and implementation process. He has worked in various markets and verticals in multiple sales and management positions, starting in lighting distribution all the way back in 1989 when I was in grade school. He moved over to the manufacturing side in 2006, where he worked for Philips, GE Lighting, and also as a regional sales manager for Satco, the gangsters. His current position is as business development manager at O'Blaney Rinker Associates in New York and New Jersey. His diverse background offers ORA's clients a unique perspective on the marketplace and an invaluable insight across the complex supply chain. We're going to spend a lot of this time talking about the trade show he's involved with, which we will be live streaming from, Eric, LEDucation. But before we get into that conversation, we want to talk about the gangsters of New York, Satco. Go to satco.com.
Talk about options. And as a salesperson, you need them. And when you've got Satco, you've got every single option there is and more. And when I say and more, I was like, the other day I needed something, and they're like, yeah, we got 6 different styles of that, and you could do this, you could do that, and pricing's right. They have stock of all of them. And then you go to a whole different fixture style and type, and they've got that too. Jamie, you know it, man. Satco's got everything.
Oh, positively.
Everything.
Yeah. Over 16,000 SKUs, man. You cannot go wrong with those guys.
Yeah, those guys are running.
We represent them here in Long Island and New York, so we're very happy campers with them.
Yeah, the gangsters are running a cartel out of New York, a lighting cartel.
That's right, exactly. But they're the nicest cartel owners ever.
Go to satco.com, and of course, Satco's a member of the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. You got bulbs in a warehouse, you sell them over the counter, you sell them on the phone, on a website, or whatever. This is your trade association, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. Welcome to the show, Jamie.
On to the show.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for having me, guys. I do appreciate it, and been watching you guys for a long time, so this is a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing you guys in March, that's for sure.
That's right. You've been on the show before, and I think you talked about this, but it's a new year. So let's go first and just give us that's right. What can you expect if you're going to attend LEDucation, or what is a typical day like? Break it down for us.
So what I would say is that this year's LEDucation is going to be a little bit different than previous, just in the sense that there's more presentations, more manufacturers. I would say bring your comfortable shoes, because you're going to do a lot of walking at this place. We're going to have over 400 manufacturers showcasing at the Hilton in New York. So we have 31 live presentations that'll be going on for 2 days, and we have 2 sets. I think it's 17 presentations the Thursday and Friday prior to. That's a virtual that they'll be doing, and we can touch on that in a little bit. But what I would say is once you get there, you're going to meet and greet with all the principals, the owners. You're going to meet with the people who can describe what the product is that they're showing, their latest and greatest. Because, as you guys know, having been there, it's the great equalizer. Everybody gets the 6x8 table and put your stuff on there and show me what you got. We break down by rep as well, which is an interesting twist than some other shows do, so that you kind of get like an idea of not only the manufacturer but who reps them in the New York territory. And the mix of people that you'll see there goes from your specifier, your designer, your architect, contractor, distributor, sales, inside project management. You literally get anybody who touches a lighting project is going to be there. So you get an interaction with everybody.
And you said it's going to be a little different than last year, and it sounds like in that you're adding presentations. What did you have last year?
Last year we had 38 last year, and now we're up to 48. We went 2 days of virtual presentations. That's because the call for that last year just went up. We were actually doing broadcasts over, in Europe, in Asia, other markets that wouldn't necessarily come to LEDucation, but they showed up for the for the virtual session. So we added more of those to touch more people. With Light Fair not being here, or actually doing anything in 2024. People just felt like there was a need to go out and see the manufacturing partners like they normally would do once a year when they were going to Life Fair. So now that that's off of the radar, LEDucation just got a little bit bigger. So we've actually gone from having a main ballroom, the grand ballroom, if you will. We had a downstairs, which was Rhinelander, America's Hall, which was next to the grand ballroom, and now we have an upstairs, which will be America's Hall 2, and everybody will be dispersed. So you'll have an additional hall to go to. And the IES New York is going to have their student competition on the first day at 4:30. So you're going to see some of the brightest, talents that we have out there right now, showcasing what they can do. So we're going to have that going on as well at the same time. So it's literally going to be from soup to nuts, anything in the lighting industry. And just to touch, it was interesting because we were talking about the fact that we do call it a trade show, but LEDucation in its origin was nothing more than a program from the DLF in conjunction with the IES in New York. It was just meant to bring information about LEDs. At the time in 2007, LEDs were brand new. They only had 31 manufacturers there and 350 attendees. So here we are, 400, and we're hoping to break 10,000 as far as the attendees go this year. We had 8,000 last year. We're hoping to break 10 this year. So it's just interesting that we kind of kept that same vibe of what would be considered a program. The DLF in New York does a monthly program. You can go to, Times Square. You can go down to the World Trade Center when that was new, and you can see what the lighting designers were doing and what their intent was, and that's what LEDucation was at the time. So by keeping that same vibe, I think you're going to get, an education on what's out there, what's the newest, latest, and greatest.
And as far as the convention or the sessions go, is that consistently throughout the day? They're hour long, half hour long, whatever they are.
Correct. Yep, and there are so the way it would work is they could be two going on at the exact same time, but typically they're off topic, so you wouldn't have two subject like both of them being on dimming at the exact same time. Let's say so you would usually pick one or the other, but if you can't make one because of that, we do archive everything up on the website, so you would be able to go on the website after the trade show and then download the presentation. The only thing you don't get from doing that is a CEU. So anything you do with LEDucation, all 48 presentations will have a CEU attached to it. You just don't get the CEU if you do it afterwards.
And the virtual sessions are going to be different from the live, or are any of them going to be the same where people that might not be able to be there can actually see one of the live ones virtually?
I'm sorry, just say that again. Meaning?
Are they going to be totally separate presentations, or are you going to do any of the live presentations virtually as well?
No, we've made a decision. I hate to say no. We decided not to do that just from a logistics standpoint. So the virtuals are being done. There are a couple that are overlapping, if you will, in nature. But the virtuals are the virtuals. The live is the live. Because then, from our point of view, right? So you try to manage a trade show as well as manage what we're trying to present to our customers there. You would say that taking a live presentation and adding it on Zoom, you can go down the rabbit hole of, well, then will people just all of a sudden start saying, well, I can't make the session. I'm talking to my friend Gary over here, so I'll just jump on my phone and do it on my phone, right? And then you got people who may be doing it in the lounge area just because they don't want to go down to the second floor and go to the presentation room. So, and I think when you're with the presenters and the level of presenters that we have, pretty much every year, but I know just from the slate for this upcoming year, you want to be in the room with that person. You want to be able to ask them that question and get that interaction and see what the other people in the room are saying as well. When you do a hybrid type of meeting, it's not exactly the same. And the virtual is tailored to be that. It's tailored to be virtual. It's tailored to be educational. A lot of students jumped on it last year, so we know our audience. But yeah, that's how we're going to do it. Live is live, virtual is virtual.
Other question about that. I see that you have so you have the virtual on Thursday and Friday, then the in-person on Monday and Tuesday. What's the reasoning for that? Why not combine them more closer together? You just get everybody to New York now over the weekend, get them excited.
Yes.
Right up.
So some of the virtual presenters wanted to be at LEDucation, and having them travel in for the day just to do a virtual presentation kind of took away from that. So what we decided to do was the virtuals can be done the week before, and then it gives everybody the day of. And I believe the Monday is there's no presentations. It's Tuesday, Wednesday during the show. So that also gives anybody who's going to be a presenter who may also be part of the show. So I was one of the speakers last year. I was involved with helping with the show on the committee, with my reps in my in my area, and then I went and did my talk. So I would say that it's a way of, tailoring it to the person who's going to be presenting, that they're not taken away from the show as well. So.
Hmm. So I'm just listening to all of this, and it sounds like such a wonderful event, actually. Accessible, affordable, open, multi-tiered. You got some virtual for people who can't make it, but also you encourage them to come to the event and attend these sessions. And I couldn't agree with you more that the level of education that happens in person to live online to video on demand, there's always a reduction with each one of those levels.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think live online is better than video on demand, but I think in person is better than live online, and by a magnitude. You're just more engaged when you're there with your peers. You're not checking your phone. You're listening and that. So congratulations on that. Great job.
Thank you.
One of the things I want to talk about is sort of from an industry perspective, Greg, and I'm going to make a comment, and then we'll see what Jamie says about it. So when for example, Nailed went through, our association went through a drastic change with the advent of LEDs. So before LEDs, a Nailed distributor would stock replacement light bulbs and ballasts and stuff and sell them to people.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it was like a pseudo subscription business, right? Because light bulbs have a certain life to them. And so you knew
it was an annuity.
Yeah. You could look at your very valuable businesses, okay? So you'd look at your business and you'd say, okay, we're going to sell $5 million worth of replacement light bulbs this year, and we're going to make this much money. It was like very, very precise business. And with the advent of LEDs, there was a lot of changes to what actual lighting distributors do. And what we've seen emerge from that is a whole bunch of different kinds of companies, Greg. Like different kinds of distributors that kind of do different things. And, what we saw during the LED boom was a surge in the amount of money spent on marketing and on, sort of egotistical trade show booths that are like the entire blocks of light fair will be taken by a certain company, and then another block. And you'd walk through these enormous booths and people were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I think that what happened is that became kind of conspicuous, and there was a lack of tangible authenticity and value to attending that, and I think LEDucation surged into that, Greg, into that space where they inverted that, where there was more, the focus was on the educational value with manufacturer support, but everyone had the same size booth. And I think that LEDucation is an idea whose time has come, Greg. And that the way that you guys have structured this is so perfect for growth in the future. So I commend you on that. First of all, do you agree with what I just said, Jamie? And just do you agree with that there was like almost a collapse in that in the market with the wanting to have these enormous booths and all this stuff?
Oh, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I was part of Philips Lighting after the Genlight acquisition. What was that, 2010, thereabouts? I don't know. I'm getting old. But it was the first light fair that they did down in Philly, and they had what was called the Philips Village. And we had like 30-something manufacturers in this massive booth. And I mean, we as employees got lost. I can't imagine what it was like for the customers. And then you go to an Acuity, and you go to some of these other ones where they have these humongous booths. And I think part of what I found during doing those shows was a lot of marketing people, a lot of people who were there who knew what was in the booth, but not a lot of technical people. So you'd have someone come in and ask a question about a product, and they'd say, contact your local rep for that, right? Whereas with LEDucation, that was, again, where that kind of came from, which was the go to Light Fair and see everything. Come to us, we'll teach you about the technology and what's out there and what you should be asking, right? And I think now that LEDs have become the norm, right? So I was a distributor when fluorescents and halogens, just like you said, that was that annuity business every year. And at that point, you were a GE, a Philips in New York, in the US, I should say. You were GE, you were Sylvania, or you were Philips, right? You might have had both. I actually had three at one point with one of the places I worked at. But the idea was that's who you ran with, because they basically had all the kind of same stuff. LEDs come in and disrupts the entire market. Now, there's no such thing as a big three anymore. There's no such thing as, well, that's the guy, because somebody has something different or they do it a different way and it's approachable. It's more of a technology that's now evolved into something that you can use versus just, fluorescents or halogens where you put them in something, right? So I think people need to understand how these things work, systems, how to develop a linear system, how do you develop a tape system, how do you do these things with LEDs properly? And if you can see it and someone can explain it to you, it just makes more sense.
Yeah, field assembled lighting systems seem to be gaining momentum, right? So
Mhm.
these, you see these specifications come across the table. There's a lot of tape light in them for these special
Mm.
applications with controls. Are we thinking through the maintenance of these systems, or is that yet to come?
I think that kind of goes. It depends on who's going to specify the system, right? I think it comes down to, if it's just a standard system, I think that kind of comes into play. If you're going for that wow factor, someone I think is just going to say maintenance. We're not that worried about it. You want your wow factor. You want that. You want that lighting to look perfect every time someone walks into that lobby or that conference room or that area that you want to highlight. So I think it depends on what the specification is and what its intent is. But I think from that point of view, LEDs have made it easier in certain respects. Because I'll give an example. Rock Center at one point had quartz halogen lamps over an escalator. Cost them $5,000 every time they wanted to change out 12 light bulbs,
Hmm.
who had a life cycle of a
Sure,
thousand hours.
sure.
Right. So now you can put an LED in that hole, and you're fine. Now you walk away for 10 years. So kind of depends on what the application is going to be, but I think a smart design will take maintenance into account. I think if you see what's going on in Europe, where they're asking about modules that could be taken in and out, drivers that could be taken in and out, versus throwing out an entire fixture, right? So what we're finding is, do you need to throw out the entire body if all I need to do is change a board? So how do we fix that? And I think you're
Well,
going to start seeing that more and more.
it starts with a joke. How many people does it take to change a light bulb? Right.
Yeah, well,
Well, I know I'm sounding a little bit crass here, but we've come to the conclusion that the joke's on the customer
oh
out
yeah.
there now, because Greg and I were just talking the other day about these various applications where you have burned out LEDs. What do you do? Very difficult
Hmm.
to address, and I think the industry needs to start taking a hard look at this and saying, you know what, we need to start planning. I called it unplanned obsolescence,
Mm.
where
Yeah,
everyone in the
fair enough.
industry, everyone believed that there was that this stuff's going to last forever. And from the
Right.
distribution side, you ask most people, and they would say, "Yeah, I don't know about that." Back in the day, but that's kind of come to fruition now, where we see that customers are being left holding the bag, and so perhaps there needs to start to be education about planning for maintenance as part of the specification. Is that at all in
I
legislation?
Yeah, there are some presentations. I would say that the word may be slightly different. It's, how do you build a sustainable design? How do you make something that, instead of taking the whole fixture out, you're only replacing a driver or a board or something within the fixture? How do you plan for that obsolescence? How do you plan for that in your design? Will it be easy enough to change out what it is that you're trying to do, or is it so specific and so unique that once that burns out, your customer is left on the hook? So there are some presentations that are meant to discuss that item, but I think at the end of the day, when you're buying an integrated fixture, that's what you're buying. You're knowing that you're buying something that's going to have a life cycle of somewhere between 5 years and 10 years,
Mm. Agree.
thereabouts.
I
But what we
always
also found,
I tell the customers, just like, because we're more in the replacement market than the new construction market. So lighting education
mhm,
would be focused on designers, major renovation, new construction kind of thing. But Greg and I find ourselves in the existing building market with lighting
mhm.
problems. And I started telling people this, and they started saying, "Hmm." I said, "An LED fixture in a 24/7 environment is like two fluorescent tube lives."
Mhm.
And people
Fair enough.
stop
Yeah.
for a second and they say, "What?" I say, "Yeah, if you go with purpose built, you're looking at two fluorescent tube lives." And so it kind of gives pause for a second because that's not that long. That's probably 6 years, right? And so it gives them
Yep.
pause and makes them think about this sort of from the longer term perspective. And as an industry, I think we need to start addressing that. Is there
hmm
any education with respect to night preservation or darkness restoration at LEDucation this year?
There are some dark sky, presentations there. Yes, as a matter of fact, I spoke to someone that when you guys come and do your show there, we'd like to do a dark sky discussion because it's becoming more and more prevalent out in the specification world. Municipalities are picking it up more than I think, as a general rule, than let's say New York State, right? But I know I live on Long Island. Southampton has very specific codes as far as Kelvin temperature for outdoor lighting, dark sky compliant lighting, not dark sky friendly, compliant, right? And turtle friendly is another one, right? That's kind of creeping itself back up into the
What was
world as
that? I
well.
didn't catch that. What's that? Which one is that?
Turtle.
Turtle friendly lighting,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So that's something. It all kind of goes into it. What are we doing to the environment with the lighting that we're putting out? And I mean, anybody who's been blinded by one of those headlights that's coming at you, I mean, that's crazy with those LEDs. It's the same thing with the road lighting. It all starts to blend in at some point. Um, So yeah, I think there's something to that. And to your other point, as far as when you go to education, you do start to see some of those other things as far as the contractors and the maintenance guys and all that stuff for retrofitting existing buildings. Because let's face it, coming out of COVID, right, we're starting to get into that point where is someone going to renew their lease? Are they not going to renew it? Do they have to renovate a space? Do they have to renovate the whole space? Could they just do part of the space? What products could I put in that are going to make sense, right? It's not all just about education is geared towards the design community, but there's so many other options out there that people have for retrofit and for remodeling a space that's relatively easy, right? Using the exact same footprint, just here's a new product that you can use out in the world.
The night preservation issue is one in which I find the lighting industry leading from behind, and
hmm
I don't like that. I think it's the same thing that happened. Greg, can you turn your lights on there, bud?
Yep, you just keep going.
So, just for those listening, Greg's lighting control system is improperly commissioned. But these words thrown about sustainability. That's one of those words that doesn't really mean anything. It kind of evolves with us, and so now it's
hmm
taken on night preservation. It's taken on maintenance into its fold. In the past, it was all about lumens per watt was sustainable, and that was a mistake. I think what we need to do as an industry is stop being told what to do by people that aren't in the lighting industry.
hmm
And it's a serious problem. And I don't know if it's, I don't know if the LDNFY is in this position or the IES as a standards body is in this position. But I feel like we keep getting told what to do by municipalities, or we get told what to do by, um, outside organizations, accreditation agencies, people
hmm
that do product labeling, right? And I feel
hmm
like it's time for the lighting industry to step up and say, you know what, this is actually how it should be. This is the way
Yeah.
we should do things. And what do you think of that, Jamie?
No, I agree with you 100%. And I think also, again, because of the fact that we're in the LED world now. I mean, most lighting you see out in the world that's going out, especially new. I mean, when was the last time we saw anything that was of a legacy product that's in a specification, right? Barring the most minute of products that are out there,
Mm.
it's all LED. So we can no longer take that position of, well, we don't know. No, we do know, and we've got enough history in this field. I mean, you figure it's been 20 years since we started putting it into the marketplace. By now, we should have gotten it better than we have it. And so I agree. As an industry, I think we need to do better at what are we doing to our skylines? What are we doing to the beachfronts? What are we doing to the night sky in some of these areas? Are we muddying up the waters for no reason? We can still provide the lighting. We just need to do it in a better way. And that may come at a cost, but the reality is, what are you paying for at that point, right? Do you want just the energy and maintenance saving, but don't you also want, a beautiful environment to enjoy it in?
Hmm. Hmm.
So when you look at the trade show portion of your, or I guess,
hmm
trade show portion, Do the manufacturers, are they bringing people from their company, or is it the New York reps that are representing those companies, or a combination of both?
It's a combination of both,
Mm.
right? So, so for us, I'll just say at O'Blaney Rinker, I'll speak to what how we handle it. So we'll have about 20 manufacturers there. Each one of them they'll man their own booths and they'll do all that kind of fun stuff. We'll get an education on the product that they're going to be bringing in, so that when these groups of people, I mean, you've seen probably some pictures if you haven't been there. You can get a crush of people that want to see all this stuff. So we as reps get educated on the new product that they're showing. We're already selling their old product, so we're familiar with their product line as it is. So we're there in support, but the manufacturer is there to shine, right? They want to go out there and put their best foot forward. And it's nice when you can shake hands with the owner of a company. I'll just use Satco because of my relationship with
Mhm.
them. When Bill Gilden is there, when the owner of a company is standing there shaking your hand, saying, "This is my new product," you feel good about that, right? You feel like this guy's literally standing behind his product out in the marketplace, and that's what we have with a lot of our manufacturers there. You'll have some people who send a marketing person or two, but I would say the education teams that they send, they kind of expect that they're going to get the tougher questions than how many lumens is this and how many is like they're going to get asked very specific application questions from the New York design community, which is a world renowned community. I mean, they send specifications to every continent on the planet. So I mean, you really need to know what you're doing when you're talking to these folks. You can't fake it. You can't fake it in New York, and you're not going to fake it at LEDucation. That's a fact.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that maybe the people listening to this need to understand. It kind of comes across as New York heavy. It makes sense
Mm.
because it's in New York. It's put on by the Design Forum. I think it's called, of New York Lighting Designer
Yeah,
Forum.
the Design Light
Um,
Forum of New York. Yep.
but is it? I mean, I'm in Minnesota. You're never going to sell me any of your product. You're not a rep here. I have a whole different
Mm.
group of reps that rep the same stuff you do. I like to talk to the manufacturer. I like to see what they have. Am I going to get that if I, as an education attendee?
That's exactly what you're going to get. You're not. Yeah. There's especially for some of the other ones. There's too many. The manufacturers outsize the rep in the territory. But no, you're speaking directly to the manufacturer, and then they're just broken down by rep just to make it easier for folks that are out there. But again, easily findable. You just look them up on your app, or you'll look them up on the chart, and you'll see where whoever it is that you want to go see. But and then we've had it where they'll tell you who your rep is in your territory and who to talk to, and send you all that kind of good fun stuff. So, and I think again, having evolved the way it has, they're getting used to that as well. It's no longer just a New York show. I mean, we had people from
Mhm.
up and down, I would say literally from across the United States, and international people come to the show. And again, with Light Fair not being here in 2024, I think we're going to see more of that. You're going to see more and more from the Eastern Seaboard, Midwest coming in, just because, well, if we don't have Light Fair, we might as well go and see what these folks have, because I think after that, what's left.
Yeah, and I would agree. The one thing I wonder is are they bringing enough? Given the booth size, am I going to see enough different products? I know I can see a computer and everything, but will there be cool new items that I get to see there? I'm assuming. I hope.
I absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
you definitely will. There's because again, this is the manufacturer coming and showing, and again, I don't want to give the impression that it's a tabletop. The space is the 8x6, but the booths that people come with are elaborate. They're spaced well. We keep it to a certain standard, and especially this coming year, we're going to be very very clear on this is your boot size. If it don't work, I'm telling you, they're going to take you out, and then you can't come back next year. And we have over 100 people on the wait list, so we won't be
Wow.
wanting from manufacturers. But the idea is, yes, you will see all the latest and greatest, and then they always have that backup material. Hey, this is all the other stuff that if you don't know, we do it. But here's the latest and greatest of what we think you're going to want to see.
Education is keeping it essential. So go to
Mm-hmm.
leducation.org, check it out. We'll see you there. We'll be somewhere up on the balcony or something live streaming.
Yes, you will. Prime
And
location.
yeah, from the location. And we're definitely going to do a Restoring Darkness podcast from there with whoever you
Mm-hmm.
want, Jamie.
Perfect.
But before we go, we want to let you know about the Gangsters of New York, Greg Eric. Satco, go to satco.com.
they'll be there, and it sounds like maybe the original gangster himself. Well, Alan Caron's one of them too, but I'm sure he'll be there.
Yes.
And Bill Gilden, the whole crew.
They'll
Check
go.
out Satco.
They will all be there.
Go to satco.com, and of course, you got light bulbs in a warehouse. You sell them over a counter. You take orders on the phone. You sell them on a website. You got to join NAILD. This is your association. Come on, the NAILD.org. LEDucation.org, NAILD.org. Check it out, folks. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.